In today's headlines, officials are monitoring 2 new Omicron subvariants. Thailand hopes to get a boost as flights from China resume, and police take bribes from a pornography production. All this is coming up in today's program.
Thailand News Today is brought to you by 5-Star Marine.
You're watching Thailand News Today, bringing you the latest top stories in Thailand and beyond. My name is Jet Gunther, and in our first story, Thai health officials are expected to gather more data in coming weeks as the highly transmissible BA.4 and BA.5 subvariants of Omicron spread in Thailand. There is a new wave of the 2 Omicron subvariant infections hitting a number of countries that had, until recently, seen a large drop in their COVID caseloads. Namely Germany, Italy, Australia, Taiwan, Brazil, the UK, Mexico, the US states of Florida, Texas, and New York, Chile, and Greece are some of the countries which have seen sudden spikes and rises in hospital admissions. South Africa and Portugal both had sudden spikes of the new subvariant and are now in the decline phase. The UK, for example, is now going through what it describes as its 3rd major wave of infections over the past 6 months. An estimated 1.7 million people in the UK were infected in the 7 days leading up to June 18th, a 23% rise on the week before and a 43% jump from the previous week. With people out and about for the region's summer, medical authorities in the UK are concerned about how the current highly transmissible variant will roll out. In Bangkok, the number of patients confirmed with COVID after being admitted to the Sirirat hospital has been rising steadily over the past month, but the hospital notes that patients with acute symptoms are not increasing at the same rate at this time. Most of the patients were detected with COVID during routine pre-treatment testing for other situations when they were admitted. Hospital administrators admit they are getting ready for a further rise of cases over the next few weeks. Thai health authorities say that the highly transmissible BA.4 and BA.5 subvariants are now spreading in Thailand, but the wave is behind the timing in other countries, much like the original Omicron wave in Thailand, which was around 2 months behind many other countries. The WHO says that the new strains had been spreading around Europe and the UK for several months now. European health authorities reported that new cases of BA.4 and .5 are replacing the earlier BA.2 subvariant as the dominant Omicron variants. They concur that there is currently insufficient evidence as to whether the new strains are more virulent than the earlier Omicron strains. Thailand received another boost to its tourism industry yesterday when China gave its blessing to resume flights between the 2 Asian nations. The gradual lifting of restrictions, the scrapping of the Thailand pass, and the relaxation of mask wearing have all been welcomed as the kingdom fights back against 2 devastating pandemic years. And the welcoming of Chinese tourists should provide another boost to the Thai economy. The Civil Aviation Administration of China has granted permission for 2 flights each week for the first time since the pandemic kicked off over 2 years ago. Initial flights will be restricted to business people and students, but Beijing says it will gradually reopen more international flights for tourists. Meanwhile, the Civil Aviation Authority of Thailand announced their carriers would be sharing the burden of operating the flights, except those to Beijing and Shanghai. Thai Airways International, Thai Smile, Thai Lion Air, and Thai Air Asia have all submitted requests to fly to Guangzhou, while Thai Vietjet will fly to Kunming and Nok Air to Nanning. Deputy Government Spokeswoman Traisuri said the easing of travel restrictions in China is a good sign and will hopefully help the tourism sector rebound and generate revenue for the return of Chinese tourists. Several Chinese cities have recently relaxed quarantine policies for international arrivals. Many inbound travelers face 7 days quarantine, down from the 14 days, although some cities still have a 7+7 quarantine policy in place.
Choose your trip to your favourite island with 5-Star Marine. go to 5starmarinephuket.com.
Bangkok Governor Chhatchhat Siriphant has been dragged into a war of words between cyclists and park-goers in a popular city park. Park-goers and cyclists who frequent Benjakiti Park in downtown Bangkok took to social media to voice their anger over speeding cyclists and the danger they pose by riding without due care and attention to others. Meanwhile, speeding cyclists hit back, saying pedestrians should not be on the cycling paths. Benjakiti Park's Facebook page posted a picture of some cyclists speaking to police who were explaining that excessive speed is banned in the park. Police said speeding can pose a risk to injury to other park goers, especially the disabled, parents with small children, and people in general. Benjakiti Park has about 30 spots where bike lanes and walkways cross, and many accidents have been reported. The Benjakiti Park Facebook page generated a heated debate, with cyclists, non-cyclists, and park-goers all jumping in. The angry exchange was brought to the attention of the Bangkok governor. Chhatchhat says most accidents occur where bike lanes and walkways in the park intersect on Rashida Pisek Road, and added that only a small number of speeding riders were to blame. Quote, "I believe this problem will be resolved. As for those cyclists who are eager to go fast, there are plenty of other places they can go. Safety at the park is important." Thailand is suffering a fertilizer shortage, with the country's farmers bearing the high costs of imported fertilizers. Now, the Chamber of Commerce plans to negotiate with Saudi Arabian suppliers. According to Thai Commerce Minister Jurin Laksanawisit, Saudi Arabia recently allowed 2 of its suppliers to sell fertilizer to Thailand. The International Trade Promotion Department is scheduled to hold a business matching event between 3 leading Saudi fertilizer suppliers and Thai fertilizer importers on June the 29th. Thailand imports the overwhelming majority of its fertilizers, with only 8% of fertilizers coming from domestic sources. The country needs about 5 million tons of fertilizer a year. Jurin said that Thailand's overall demand for fertilizer from Saudi Arabia is about 808,000 tons. In the past, Thailand imported fertilizer from the Middle East, China, Canada, and Russia. But after Russia invaded Ukraine in February, the country suspended fertilizer exports. In March, Thailand's Internal Trade Department gave local traders and suppliers approval to raise their fertilizer prices. The price rise was approved on a case-by-case basis. Ever since Thailand rekindled relations with Saudi Arabia in February, the 2 countries have embarked on several projects together, from tourism to employment. Earlier this month, Thailand announced that a 30-day visa exemption will be available to all Saudi citizens. Another day, another story involving Thai police taking bribes, this time in Chiang Rai province. According to a deputy police commissioner, 4 officers in the northern province took a 1 million baht bribe from a Chinese gang filming live pornography at 2 resorts. One of the officers had searched the gang's filming spot on March the 31st. He reportedly found recording equipment, phones, condoms, and sex toys. But the officer did not go after the gangsters. Instead, he immediately announced that he had not found anything. No charges were pressed. But later, it was discovered that a fixer who had arranged locations for the gang had gone to the bank to withdraw 800,000 baht. On April the 1st and April the 4th, the fixer, named Anuson, gave the money to the 4 rogue officers. In return, they gave back the equipment they had seized. Shortly after the exchange, the gang continued filming their, quote, projects, moving their work to a different resort. Meanwhile, the fixer Anuson continued making visits to the bank to withdraw more money. On May the 26th, tech police raided the second resort, arresting and charging a Chinese man, 2 Thai women, and several Thai, Chinese, and Laotian performers. One performer was 17 years old. Then, the 4 rogue officers were also arrested and charged. Police often accept bribes from suspects involved in drug and sex crimes in exchange for not jailing them. And that's all for our report from Thailand News Today. The show will be back tomorrow. Meanwhile, you're not up to date on the Thaiger.